But when I read Black Lives Matter and what they were talking about, which I'll get into in a minute, I thought to myself, this philosophy and ideology is going to damage the lives of the young people I've spent 20 years trying to help.
Hello and welcome to Triggernometry. I'm Francis Foster.
I'm Konstantin Kisin.
And this is a show for you if you want honest conversations with fascinating people.
Our terrific guest today is the CEO of an award-winning charity and a social campaigner, Nick Buckley, MBE. Welcome to Triggernometry.
Thank you very much.
It is great to have you here, Nick. Before we get into your story, which a lot of our audience are going to find very interesting, I think, just tell everybody, who are you? How are you where you are? What is the journey that leads you to be sitting here talking to us?
That's a 50-year journey. So, kid off a council estate in Manchester, in South Manchester. Went to a failing school. Didn't do really well with my exams. Didn't go to university. Did a lot of travelling around the world. I think that really changed me who I am. Then I got a job with Manchester Council. Started looking in different roles in there, started working with young people, trying to stop them getting involved in crime and antisocial behaviour. And then when the cuts came in 2011, austerity hit, I took redundancy and used that money to invest in a charity. And I set up my own charity to carry on working with young people on the street to stop them getting involved and making poor decisions. And then June this year, I did some blogging, and I did a blog on Black Lives Matter, because they'd just come to the fore. Nobody knew who they were. So I went on the website, had a bit of a read, and was quite shocked about what it said on their website. So not rumours, not gossip, what they put themselves on their website. And I thought, I don't know anybody knows any of this. So I wrote a 600-700 word blog, really talking about their website and what was on their website. And that hit the fan. People thought I was a racist, a Nazi. And when you think I've spent 20 years working in the most challenging neighbourhoods across Greater Manchester, working with thousands, tens of thousands of young people and helping, supporting them, and everything just turned sour overnight. There was an online petition to have me fired from the charity I set up and founded. That got 450 signatures. There were some other email complaints went into the board, who I appointed. So a lot of them were I was friends with, and I appointed for their skills. I was then summarily sacked via email. And then I mounted a fight back. I thought, I'm not having this. You know, if you knew me, you would think to yourself, you wouldn't take Nick on if you weren't completely sure that what you're doing was right. So I mounted a comeback. The online petition got 18,000 signatures compared to the 400.
To get you reinstated.
To get reinstated. Got some press attention with the Mail on Sunday. And then I had a solicitor's firm involved, free of charge, called Keystone Law. Excellent.
We're going to need that.
I highly recommend Jeffrey Davis. Fantastic. They looked at my case, and within a few hours went, they've made so many mistakes here. A week later, reinstated back at the charity I founded.
And the Free Speech Union, very helpful, I believe.
Speech Union were fantastic. It's the only organisation I've ever joined. So I've never been a member of a political party, any other union. I think the only things I've ever joined is a local library and Blockbusters for your younger viewers. The older viewers will know what Blockbusters is. But then I joined the Free Speech Union in June, and they were amazing. I'd recommend anybody, if you like talking, join the Free Speech Union, because you don't know when you need them. And you're contributing to their coffers, and they're going to help people like me. When I never thought I was going to need any help. It was my charity. I set it up. I appointed the board. I got an MBE for it. I'm not going to get cancelled. How little did I know.
Well, that's the great thing about nowadays, is that anyone can be a Nazi, Nick.
Yes.
You know, there's everything. Black, white Nazis, white Nazis, Jewish Nazis. It's incredible.
Anybody you don't like is a Nazi.
Yeah.
I got poor service in the shop one day. I'm convinced they were Nazis.
Well, listen, let's get into it a little bit. So, first of all, it just boggles the mind, because as comedians, we can understand, we make a bad joke, we say something wrong, we haven't really done anything with our lives, we're sort of useless, we just talk. So if we get cancelled, it's sort of par for the course. you expect it, blah, blah, blah. But you're someone, 20 years you've spent working with disadvantaged kids, helping them make a better lot for themselves, right? Having yourself come from a very difficult background yourself, right? You work your way up, you start a charity with your own redundancy money. You get an MBE, it's your own charity. And you say something in public, which is factually based about the BLM organization. And then you're sacked from your own charity. It's unimaginable, isn't it?
Up to the email arriving in my inbox, it was unimaginable. I'm still in shock now. You know, the last couple of months, I'm still in shock. And you know, it's deeply affected me as well. You know, it's affected my relationships. It's affected how I view the people on the board who I class as my friends. You know, I'd known one of them 15 years. And I don't particularly blame those individuals. I don't blame individuals. You know, I put them in a very difficult situation with that blog, even though that wasn't my intention. That's what I did because I take personal responsibility for this. No one else did this. I wrote the blog, I posted it, so I need to take responsibility for it. And I still look at those individuals and they were still wonderful individuals the day before they sent that email. So therefore, they're still wonderful individuals now. They just weren't up for a fight. And that's the only difference. So I don't want to fall into the trap that other people do. You know, they're nasty, they're evil, they're left-wing commies. They were just nice people, just weren't up for a fight.
Yeah.
And Nick, the question I'm really interested in asking is this: what were your criticisms of BLM, of the BLM organisation? I'll make that overt. What in particular did you disagree with?
So I think first thing I need to tell you why I wrote it. Because I didn't write this because I had spare 10 minutes and I'm always sticking my nose into other people's business. And I've never commented anything around Extinction Rebellion, who I don't support. But Extinction Rebellion doesn't fall under the remit of my charity of what we're trying to do, what we're trying to achieve. So I wouldn't comment on that because I'm not an expert. But when I read Black Lives Matter and what they were talking about, which I'll get into in a minute, I thought to myself, this philosophy and ideology is going to damage the lives of the young people I've spent 20 years trying to help. It's hard enough being brought up in the inner city. It's hard enough being brought up in poverty without having a national movement, an international movement telling you that you're a victim, that the police are out hunting you down every night, that the reason why you fail is because you're black, you're brown, because you're Muslim, because you're this, because you're a woman. And I know a lot of young people, and it's quite tempting. And I was one of those. That's why I've only been doing this for 20 years and I'm 52. So what did I do for the other 30 years? I wasted my life. That's what I did. So I know how easy it is to get distracted. So if we're giving young people a solid gold reason not to try in life, because what's the point? I'm black. What's the point? I've been told by all these politicians that, I'm a victim. Then I'm there going, no, you're bloody not. And don't listen to them because that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you think you're going to fail in life, I guarantee you're going to fail in life. And success is what you make it. Success isn't you're going to be an international footballer. The odds are you're not going to get that. But you can judge what success is. And success might be stacking shelves at Asda and having a legal job that pays the rent and you can have a wife and kids. That's success. But also, if you want to be a doctor or a nurse, or it doesn't matter, sort out yourself what success is and then aim for that. Because we're not all going to be brain surgeons or footballers. So you deem what success is. And when I read what they wrote on their website about dismantling the nuclear family, that's the biggest problem we've got in inner cities. No bloody fathers. And they want to dismantle the nuclear family and break it down. And then you read they want to defund the police, which means abolish the police. I don't know anybody who wants to abolish the police. You tend to have police where we have crime. And the poorest people in the poorest neighbourhoods are the biggest victims of crime. Not the leafy suburbs. It's the people living in the inner cities. And all of them, and someone who speaks to a lot of them, they all want more police, not less police. And we've seen what happened in America when all of a sudden the police disappear. gun crime goes through the roof, violence goes through the roof. Look at New York City at the moment. I think homicides have increased 200-300%, something like that, over the last few months. And we're telling the poorest people and the people who need the most and the most protection that we're going to abolish the police for you, mate. And I'm reading all this on their website and I'm thinking, they're either nutcases, but I've read some more and thought, they're not nutcases, they're Marxist. This is the way to tear down our society and our culture and our country, especially when they say we want to overthrow capitalism. Well, what does that mean? Well, there's only one option from capitalism, and it's socialism, which means communism. And we tried communism maybe a dozen times last century.
We gave it a really good go, mate.
We gave it a really... Yeah. Your ancestors gave it a really good go.
Yeah.
And did it work anywhere? No. All it left was tens of millions of bodies. And capitalism isn't perfect. Capitalism is, what the church will say, it's the worst, best system we've ever come across at the moment, that we've developed at the moment. It's not perfect. And capitalism has a tendency of leave, the poor and the vulnerable stacking up at the bottom. And that's the people we need to help. So we need a compassionate capitalism. We don't need to tear all this down and try again a failing system that never works anywhere else. So I read this and I thought, this is going to destroy everything I've spent 2 decades trying to change across Greater Manchester. And that's why I wrote the blog. I thought people need to know about this, not because of me and my big mouth, because it's going directly against what the charity was set up to do, to help the exact people this is going to damage. And that's why I wrote the blog.
So let's talk about that. You talk about, I can't remember the exact phrase, and I don't think it's about dismantling the nuclear family, but something about disrupting the nuclear family requirement or some shit. But basically they want to live in massive communes or whatever it is. You talk about the inner city. Let's start with the rise of the single parent household. What sort of impact on the young people that you work with would having more single parenthood have for those people?
So if we go to my experience, my personal experience, single parent household, mum did a fantastic job. We had no money, but I knew I was loved. I had a nice, happy family growing up. And all my friends had dads. So, we're looking at 30, 40 years ago. And if you'd have asked me then, do I miss having a father? I had no memory of my father. I think we left when I was 2. And the answer would be, no, I've not missed it at all. There's nothing I could have got extra out of it. But then the first time I realised I had missed out, I was 23 years old, sat with my friends in a beer garden in Manchester one summer's day, having a drink, and everyone's talking about shaving. And someone just bought the new Gillette shaver, or bought this or bought that. And we're all talking about shaving. And they all said they shaved the way the dad taught them to shave. And when it came to me, they said, how do you shave, Nick? I went, I've got an electric razor. Oh, why do you use electric razor? And I said, well, I looked in some drawers once in the house when I was 14 and found an old electric razor, and I started shaving with that, and I've shaved with it ever since. And it was at that conversation I realised, I have missed having a father in my life. Not dramatically, it wasn't, a life-changing thing. And then I started thinking, if I missed out on that, what else have I missed out on to help me mould me into being a man, to having, inspiration, to trying to achieve something? And the answer is I don't know, because you don't know what you've missed when you don't know it was there. So taking that forward now to young people in the inner cities, when I meet young people, I've got 2 ways of knowing if they're vulnerable to making really poor choices in life. The first one is the failing education. So if I'm talking to young people and they're saying they hate school, they're never in school, they've been kicked out of school, is a huge warning sign to me, because I know they're vulnerable now to being pulled into criminality, making negative choices. And the other warning sign is, I've no father at home. And if you've got both of them, then, you're extremely vulnerable to making poor choices. We really underestimate as a society, and we're not allowed to talk about this, because if you talk about this, it's as if we're attacking single mums. And I'm not attacking single mums. Do an amazing job under so much pressure and stress. What I'm saying is they'd be under less pressure and stress and have an easier life if we had the father there. And who I'm blaming are the fathers. I'm not blaming the single mums. I'm saying to men and boys, how dare you knock somebody up and it's your child and you take no responsibility ever for your child? Then how dare you do that? This is your flesh and blood growing inside, this woman who's then going to give birth. It's going to be your child who's then going to have other children, and you don't want to be part of their life, and you don't want to provide for that child and be a man and take responsibility. How dare you not want to do that? And you're going to leave it to the state to bring up your child. I'll tell you what, the state will do a bloody poor job of bringing up your child, a poor job. You need to get some responsibility and you need to raise your own children. That's what you need to do. And that's aimed at the men, not at single mums who do a good job under hard circumstances. I want them to have more help and support. And it's the men, as a society, we need to be going after and saying, just like we used to do with drink driving. When I was a kid in the 70s, I always went to my uncle's car who was drunk and we'd drive us home. And we all knew he was drunk and it was acceptable. Now, you'd phone the police if you knew someone was driving someone's kids home. You'd phone the police. And that's what we need to do with men who are not taking responsibility for their children. Children need a father and a mother, in less exceptional circumstances. If your dad's a violent, murdering paedophile, do you know what? You'll do better in life without having a relationship with him. So that's a caveat. But on the whole, children need both parents.
So that BLM recommendation, not constructive, not helpful. And that's
disastrous.
Disastrous. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go to the next one, which is abolish the police, defund the police. Now, they say defund means something else. There's a lot of bullshit. But then there's a New York Times article comes out where they go, no, we mean abolish the police. So let's take them at the word, abolish the police. What would be the impact in the inner city like Manchester of removing the police officers who are there?
Yeah.
And replacing them with quote-unquote social workers? What would be the impact of that?
Well, first of all, I spent nearly a decade as a community safety manager for Manchester Council. And every residents' meeting I went to, every victim of crime I spoke to, in the inner cities, lots of them, being me, would all say, I want more police on my street. Where are the police? I want more police. Not one person ever said to me, do you know what, Nick? I'm sick of seeing police around here. Not one person's ever said to me in the decade I worked in the crime field at Manchester Council, everybody wants more police. It makes you feel safer. If we reduced the amount of police, and we have done across Greater Manchester, I think we've lost over 2,000 police officers in the last decade because of austerity. The Met has lost a hell of a lot more than that. If you take police out of those neighbourhoods, you're basically handing it over to organised crime, and you're handing it over to dysfunctional young people who commit low-level crime and antisocial behaviour and will run amok. I remember growing up on a council estate 50 years ago where antisocial behaviour and low-level crime was not only every day, it was culturally acceptable. I remember some kid running across my street with half a leg of lamb, half a lamb, because someone was delivering meat to local butchers, and as he popped in, this lad jumped in the back and picked up half a sheep and ran on with it. And everybody knew who'd done it. No one said anything. It was all acceptable. We've got away from that now because it looks like a victimless crime, but there is no victimless crimes in society. And if we remove police from these areas or just reduce them, antisocial behaviour will go through the roof. Low-level crime will go through the roof. And then we'll have organised crime taking over. And what we'll have then we'll have vigilantes. We'll have organised crime walking around going, I'll sort that burglar out for you. And they might not even be the person who burgled your house, but they'll get a good idea of stabbing because we thought it was him. And that's not how we want to run our society with lawlessness and vigilantes and gangs running our neighbourhoods. We need more police, not less police. There's an argument for better policing. Absolutely. I've trained police officers in community engagement. I did that for several years, every now and again, working with Greater Manchester Police. Police need, to improve their training. I'm sick of police. You see it on TV. Those TV shows drive me mental. If I hear one more police officer speaking to a member of public and calling him mate, all right, mate, what you doing tonight? All right, love, calm down. Don't be drinking. Excuse me. You called him sir and you call her madam. You don't call them mate and love. If someone from British Gas turns up my house, I want them to call me sir. I'm paying for a service here. I'm not your mate. Be professional. And so we can improve the police, and they need to, we need to raise their game. On the whole, they're fantastic. I'm a big supporter of the police, but they can be improved. So we can improve and help train the police better. But reducing them and getting rid of them is absolutely I can only say it's the craziest idea I think I've ever heard.
I like that, because halfway through it sounded like you were giving him a bollocking.
Which I deserve, to be fair.
Which you do deserve, which I very much enjoy. Now, I think pretty much everybody who looks at these ideas knows that they're crazy, knows that they are fundamentally unworkable. So why have we got into this position where they have become impossible to criticise?
Do you remember the documentary the BBC did on Black Lives Matter when they went into the background of who they are and how they're set up?
No, we didn't see it. No, I don't. Did you see it?
I don't think I have. No.
Doesn't exist. That's why no one knows what Black Lives Matter stands for, because not one reputable mainstream media organisation has done a half-hour documentary into Black Lives Matter. That's why nobody knows about it. As simple as that. I speak to my friends. All my friends, up to me educating them, think Black Lives Matter is just a movement that came out of racism in the UK. And I say, it's an organisation. They have a website. They've collected millions of pounds. Have they? I didn't know that. Well, these are some of their views. I never knew that. Well, how would they? Unless they've got the time and inclination to do some research, which most people haven't, then the mainstream media have completely let us down. Where is the documentary about who Black Lives Matter are? I'm not saying attack them, but a factual BBC, Panorama, Horizon, Newsnight type of documentary. This is Black Lives Matter. Started 6 years ago in America over the shooting of some black young person who said he had his hands up. It turns out he didn't have his hands up. All the way through now. And let's have a proper factual documentary, but no one's made it. And the mainstream media don't want to make it. So we're kept in ignorance.
Well, they're scared. I mean, this is why you say people aren't educated, but there are also people, and I can tell you this from personal experience, in the media, higher up in different echelons of different organizations. You talk to them, you sit them down and you go, here's the fact about this. This is what they propose. And they go, and then they don't say anything.
Yes. Because
they know the punishment, as you now know the punishment.
Yes.
Which is if you make these perfectly legitimate observations. I mean, they say so themselves. One of the co-founders of BLM said in 2015 that they're trained Marxists.
Yeah, I saw the video with her talking about it.
So it's not a secret.
No.
It's not a secret. There's no secret about it. But a lot of people simply don't want to say that that's what's happening. And therefore, they'll pretend they don't know.
It's a bit like Father Christmas and the Easter Bunny. We know it's made up. We know it's crazy. But we're not going to go around saying it's all made up and crazy because it might upset the people who still believe in it. We call them children. So we don't want to upset them. And if you've got the big directors at those big organisations who know the truth, they're not stupid. They've already looked into this. But you're right. They're seeing what's happened to people like me and other people, and they're thinking, I don't want to lose my £250,000 a year job and my amazing pension for saying something that I know people don't want to hear. This is my job.
And Nick, did you have any idea of the hot water you were going to get into by writing this blog? Or did you think it was a legitimate criticism and you were just going to go about your day?
I thought there would be some criticism because social media. I could put on social media my date of birth. Somebody would criticize it. So there would be some criticism.
Yeah.
Did I think it'd be anything like what happened? No. Because, would I have posted it if I'd have known? I really don't know. I'd like to think I would. I'd like to think, yes, I would. But that's far too easy an answer. Would I have posted it knowing that the turmoil and, you know, the hurt and, you know, just what I've been through, what I have done it. I really couldn't answer that. But no, I didn't expect it to go batshit crazy like it did.
But do you regret posting it?
No.
Why not?
Because I believe I was right. And I believe I've been proven right. And I believe if I'd have posted that blog today, it'd have made no waves.
I agree.
I was ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to be a leader in any field you're in, and if you're trying to improve the lives of people you care about, then you need to do what's right, not what's convenient. And it was right at that moment in time for me to try to educate whoever was following me on social media about what I discovered. I didn't know. I discovered it and went, people need to know about this. So I then tried to educate and inform other people. So I don't regret doing it at all.
And so you say that you don't regret doing it. And you look at the government's handling of BLM. I personally think it was weak.
What handling?
Exactly. So what are your criticisms of the government? Do you think they handle well?
That's the biggest problem we've got. I can honestly say I've never been so disappointed in the government than the one we've got at the moment. I voted for this government. And not because of policies, not because of COVID, because let's be honest, we're all making COVID up as we go along because no one knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Just every country is doing the best what they think is right because we've never had this before. So I'm not even blaming them for that. All of us, you know, even now, where's the leadership? When they're pulling down statues and graffitiing, you know, the Churchill statue and attacking the police. And I can't name one politician who stood up and went, no, not in this country, not today, and not while I've got my seat in Parliament. If you don't like what I'm saying, vote me out. Because I'm going to say what I believe. Vote me out if you disagree with me. But I'm having none of this. The whole country was begging for someone to stand. Boris Johnson was on death's door. So he still could have done more, regardless. You know, we had a World War II pilot with no legs flying Spitfires. So just because, you know, you're ill or you've lost it doesn't mean you still can't do anything. You still should have done more. But I'm extremely angry and disappointed with our government about how they did nothing, how they made everybody else feel, I better say nothing, because even the government's afraid of the mob. And if they're afraid of the mob, I work in Tesco's, I work in a factory, I daren't say anything. And I better put that BLM poster in the window. I better start making those fist salutes. I better start putting a black square on Instagram. Because if the government's afraid, then I need to be terrified. And they've really dropped the ball. Absolutely dropped the ball.
I know an actor who was forced by her agent to put a black square on their Instagram because if you don't, you're going to lose work.
Yes.
So that terror you're talking about, and you're right, I think it rose all the way to the top. All the way to the top. But coming back to you and your situation, it sounds to me like the people who sacked you from your own charity, they didn't do it because they were sort of ardent BLM marchers who'd been out there protesting. They did it for likely the same reasons that people were doing everything else, which is, this is scary, we're going to get punished, this looks bad. And they just didn't want to make the stand that you did.
Yes.
It was a sort of soft cowardice, you might say.
Possibly.
I mean, I'm putting it quite in strong terms. I'm not attacking the people.
Yeah.
I'm just saying they were unwilling to make a stand, let's say. Was that it? Was that the extent you think of it?
Yeah.
They just didn't want to deal with the trouble.
Yeah.
But why fire you then? Why not just like say they don't support you? Why would they sack you from your own charity?
Again, a lot of this comes down to COVID. Months and months being locked away. All of us hypersensitive. All of us spending far too much time on social media because we've got nothing else to do. If there's been normal times, I think the email would have been, Nick, we all need a face-to-face here. It's COVID. So there was no face-to-face. They were probably looking at the charity and thinking, we've got lots of corporate supporters, and they're probably looking, some of these corporate supporters are actively supporting BLM. They're not happy. And my answer would have been, I don't care. I set this charity up. They can pull their money. It's not a lot of money anyway. But I'm not sacrificing the futures of the young people on the streets just so we can get a couple of extra grand off this corporate, because I'll take a pay cut. We can save the money somewhere else. I'm not selling my soul and what I believe just for an extra couple of grand because we're damaging young people that the charity was set up to help. And that's what I always came back to. And that's all the decisions I've made for the charity was, is this decision the right thing for those kids on the streets? Because if it is, well, we make that decision. Is this the best decision for me to get a pay rise? Well, I shouldn't be answering that question. The question always should be about young people we're trying to help. And they probably looked at many things. I'm guessing I wasn't in their mind. I didn't even sit down and have a conversation with them. They panicked. They saw some complaints come in. They saw the 450 signatures, which at the time seemed a lot of people. 450 people all want Nick sacked. These people are saying he's a Nazi, he's a racist. Some of these people are obviously black. Look at the faces on Twitter. They must know what they're talking about. So we've got to let Nick go.
And how did it work? Did you have any inkling that you were going to get fired, or did you simply walk into an office and then it get delivered to you there?
Emails. It was all over email.
So you got sacked from your own charity via email?
Yes. Immediate.
I mean, the effect on... And did you have any idea that this was going to happen?
No.
So effectively, you got an email out of the blue firing you from your own charity that you set up. The effect on you must have been devastating.
The first week, it's hard to admit I was a beaten man the first week. Because I walked out and went, oh, you idiot. You in your big mouth. When will you ever learn to keep your mouth shut? That's all I was saying to myself. People are laughing at you now. Those 450 people are definitely laughing at you. People you've worked with, other agencies, other charities, they're all laughing at you. Who does he think he is? He was always spouting off in meetings. He was always saying we could do better. He was always saying our plans were wrong. And look at him now. Yeah. We're all glad that. And that's what I was thinking. The first week, I was a beaten man, absolutely. I look back now and I think, I couldn't have got any lower. And then the second week, I got a phone call off a friend who said, what are you doing, Nick? I said, what do you mean? He went, you've not replied to anybody. Not one email, not one anything on social media. You've not challenged anybody. They're calling you Nazi here. You've not even come back, even with an insult to them. You've just accepted it all. And as if you're guilty. And we all know you're not guilty. Why are you lying down? Because I was beaten. So I went to bed that night and I didn't sleep. And that's all that was going on in my head was that conversation. And I woke up next morning and I thought, right, the least I can do now is fight back and clear my name. Probably won't get my job back, but unless I clear my name, my next step in my life is going to be a lot harder, because it'll be, do you remember Nick, the Nazi? And I thought, well, that can't be around the rest of my life. So I thought, at least I need to fight back. And then coincidence happen in life. I've always had a lot of good luck. I always argue, is it good luck, or was it the fact that I was willing to take an opportunity that arose? So I don't think it was luck. Anyway, that morning, knock on the door, open my front door. Hi, I'm a reporter from the Mail on Sunday. Can I have a chat? And I went, just the man. Let me get the kettle on. So it wasn't that flippant. I went, come in, I need to properly think about this before I do an interview. And I wasn't that flippant. So we had a good chat, gave an interview, and I thought, well, that's the beginning of the fight back. Let's get some national press on this. And then one of the former trustees of the charity phoned up and said, I can't believe what's happened. He said, do you mind if I set up an alternative petition to get you reinstated? Because I don't want to do it without asking you in case it makes things worse. I went, no, do it. So he set that up. And then I went on the offensive, as much press I could do. Went on talk radio quite a bit. Lots of stuff on Twitter and Facebook. That was generating lots of complaints then to the charity board to say, why did you sack this man? So all of a sudden I flipped the pressure. Pressure wasn't on me anymore now. pressure went back onto the board of the charity. Why have you done this?
What was their formal reason for sacking you?
Formal reason was bringing I think it was 3 points. Never mentioned the blog. So 3 points was something like bringing the charity in disrepute, spouting political ideology, and breaching Charity Commission guidance.
It's interesting. Do you think that if you'd made a statement in support of Black Lives Matter, do you think that would have been regarded as spouting political opinions?
No, because almost every charity before that was all supporting Black Lives Matter.
That's interesting, because I would imagine that's sort of a political position as well, isn't it?
If it's a political position to criticise, then it's a political position to endorse.
Right.
It turns out, when you read the Charity Commission guidance, none of that comes under their definition of political. It's about supporting British political parties around laws or getting them elected. And this was the American organisation, so it didn't even come under that.
Yeah. And so this happened, so you started your fight back. At this point, did you want to return to the charity, or did you just want to highlight what actually happened to you and the injustice behind it?
To begin with, I was trying to clear my name. That's how I thought this is, like you do in life when you've got plans, you have a series of goals. And my first goal was, I need to clear my name. I can't be known as Nick, remember the charity guy, the Nazi? So I wanted to clear my name on that. The best thing that someone called me was a compassionate Nazi. I got a tweet saying, I'll take on board your 2 decades of working in these tough neighbourhoods, supporting kids, and you're obviously very compassionate, but you're still a Nazi. You are a compassionate Nazi. And I thought about changing my Twitter handle, and I thought, no, I don't want to go for the rest of my life with the word Nazi in my Twitter handle and stuff like that. But I thought it was quite funny. So I wanted to clear my name first of all. And when I could see that was happening, and I literally got maybe 1,000 personal messages on Facebook, on Twitter, from all over the UK, from France, from Australia, from America, saying we've seen it in the press, you've got our full support, anything we can do. I had the one English businessman offer to pay my wages in case I was really struggling. I was getting so much support. That changed my perspective. Then I thought, if I had any doubts that what I'd done was right, and I did have doubts of what I'd done was right, because when all of a sudden you face that, it's like, and I am a reflective person, so I was thinking, maybe I am wrong. Maybe I did cross the line here. Why would all these people be against me? And no one for me. That was another strange thing. No one, in that first couple of weeks, no one came to my defence. No one. I had a couple of emails and phone calls saying I'd like to, but after I see what's happened to you, Nick, I don't do anything public, but just letting you know that I am on your side, just not publicly. And then when all that happened, I thought, I might be able to get the charity back here. So it was a secondary thought. It wasn't my initial thought. And then when I got solicitors, Keystone Law involved, and they looked at everything, they went, this looks like an open and shut case to us, mate. They said, we really think you'll be back in the seat this time next week.
Oh, really?
And they were spot on.
Wow. And what would you say to people who invariably say cancel culture, it's a myth, it doesn't exist, you're free to say whatever you want?
We need to define what cancel culture is, because it's become this term for everything now. So if I am sick of your posts on Twitter and I block you, that's not cancel culture. That's me just sick of your tweets. But people are going, oh, he's blocked me. You're talking about cancel culture, but yet you blocked me. Oh, that's not cancel culture. And it's not cancel culture if it's, you're an actor and all of a sudden I don't like your political views. And it's not cancel culture to say, do you know what? I used to be a fan of yours, but I'm not now. That's not cancel culture. Cancel culture is when you say, I don't like what you're saying or what you think, and I'm going to try to destroy your life. I'm going to go after, if you work for someone, I'm going after them so they know. I'm going to go after, you put on Twitter that your sister works for Virgin Trains. Well, I'm going to go after your sister on Virgin Trains now because I'll destroy you. If you're an actor, I want to set a petition up that we all boycott the film you had a 4-second role in. And I want to make sure that all the other directors, producers know if you're in anything, that a load of trouble comes with that. That's cancel culture, where you try to destroy someone's life. Not when you say, I don't want to hear you, mate. So therefore, I'm going to do something so I don't hear you. That's perfectly acceptable. That's not cancel culture. It's when you want to destroy someone.
And having experienced it yourself, do you
Yep.
think it's more prevalent than we actually like to think in the UK?
I'm bound to say yes, because I'm more attuned to it now and I see it more. I probably didn't see it as much before. But you two gents who do this podcast and speak to lots of people, you're probably better positioned to know. It looks like it's happening more, especially since Black Lives Matter, because we've suddenly got this new justice warrior type now who weren't involved a few months ago. And it's easier to do it now. And it's easier to do it because every one of those individuals completely believes that they're 100% right and that they're on God's side, that they're on Martin Luther King's side, that if Gandhi and Mandela were here today, they're on their side and they 100% believe that. And what we believe, people like us, is I think I'm right. I'm not saying I'm 100% right. I think I'm right based on what I've read and what I've seen and what I've felt. And I'm quite happy listening to somebody else in case they can change my mind or in case they know something I don't know. So it's hard to have a fair fight when we think we're right and they know they're right. And it's an unfair fight.
I think a lot of it is what we talked about earlier. And you sort of cringed a little bit when I suggested the people who sacked you are cowards. But I think, not speaking about them personally, but more broadly, I think that's a big part of it, because in your case, 450 people signing a petition, you could get 450 people to sign a petition about the color of trains, right? Anything. But it seems like a lot. And then at that point, people have to have some backbone to say, actually, we don't care that 450 people who we don't know, who have no identity verification, we don't even know if there's one person who created 450 accounts. Could be, right? It takes some backbone to stand up against it. And I think part of the reason that there is cancellation happening is that people are just afraid. Good people are just afraid. So let's talk about the process further down the line, which is you get the lawyers involved. They tell you it's an open and shut case. What happens from there?
So the board of trustees, the solicitor votes them, outlining their mistakes and where they were wrong. And that I was going to sue them for unfair dismissal. Breach of contract. Upon hearing that and seeing the evidence, and obviously then getting legal advice themselves, which they probably should have done before, they realised the mistake and decided to resign. So they appointed another board who I approved. A new board was appointed, and then they reinstated me.
Wow. And so you're back where you should rightfully be, at the helm of your charity.
Yep.
And what advice would you give to people about speaking out, about criticising?
We all need to speak out. And when you were just saying then about cowardice, we're all guilty of that. We're all guilty. None of us do enough. Even now, I see things. I think, should I comment or shouldn't I comment? And I don't comment on anything, even though part of me wants to comment on that because I believe in something. And I like to think at the moment, I'm probably still a little bit, not vulnerable. I'm probably still a little bit damaged. And it's, could I mentally cope with another outbreak? And it's like, oh, do you know what? I don't want to give that a go. So maybe in a couple of months' time, when I'm a bit stronger, a bit more solid, than I do, and hence why I'm on your show. This is the real reason why I'm here, because I want to speak out. I want to be a voice for everybody else. I want to show people and tell people this can be beaten, and it can be beaten fairly easy. Nobody puts up. When I fought back, no one fought back against me. They didn't rise back up, just like school bullies. When it's 10 of us, we're going to pick on you something awful. All of a sudden, you're fighting back. Someone easy around the corner to bully. Let's go have a go at them because you're just causing too many problems for me now as a bully. I'm going to go pick someone else. nobody, when I started the fight back, there was no negative comments on social media. No one's emailed me to complain that I'm back in post. No one's emailed the board saying, why did you take that Nazi back? They shut up. Once that Mail on Sunday article hit, every single one of them shut up, because all of a sudden there's thousands of people online in support of me. And they all went, oh, we're not taking on a crowd. That's too dangerous. We know what it's like when you're a crowd and what you can do to people. That's a bigger crowd. We're not taking them on. So we all need to stand up. What we don't need is martyrs. I don't want people losing their jobs standing up over something that was trivial or something you couldn't change. We don't need more martyrs out there who are self-sacrificing themselves, but everyone can do a bit. And if everyone just doesn't, we're the silent majority. The vast 90% of the country agree with us. If everyone earned just a tiny bit and you add all that up, that's like a tidal wave of support. And we can crush the dissent that we get. And these lunatics, we can crush them in a nice way. And that's what we need to do. Everybody needs to do their bit. So if you read something on Twitter and you think, yeah, I can retweet that, retweet it or like it. If you want to comment on something, but be sensible. What we don't need is our version of those nutcases out there, because all you do then is you give them another reason to double down and say, no, look at that, some of them are racist. We don't need to play their game the way they go. We need to beat them, first of all, with emotion, not facts. They don't want to hear facts. You can give them all the facts you want. They're running on emotion. So we need to tackle them with emotion. And we need to say, this is what we're trying to achieve. We want to achieve the same things as you. A fairer society, no racism, lots of opportunity for everybody, no homeless people. We want the same things as you. Of course we do. But these are ways of getting there. And with some of your ideas and some of our ideas, we can get there, as opposed to saying, we're just going to attack them for attacking them sake. We need to have a better strategy of how we're going to do this. And I'm sort of formulating one at the moment. So I'm either going to write some articles or maybe a book or something about how we do it. And it's not about attacking them.
Yeah.
Because the vast majority of them are decent people. We need to pull them onto our side. What we don't need to do is to be knocking them off one at a time and beating them. Let's pull them all on our side. And then you've got a couple of Marxist lunatics that we can all turn around and then just mock.
So it's about being a compassionate Nazi.
Being a compassionate Nazi, yeah, exactly.
When you run for office, that can be a slogan, mate. No, I agree with you. And I think the point you're making is very important, which is, I've been thinking about this for the last few months, which is, if this is a war, which is kind of been set up.
It can't be a war.
That's my point.
It can't be, because all we're doing is, it's a civil war.
Yeah. That's
we
my point.
We all lose in a civil war.
Yeah.
This has to be, I hate the word war. I hate the term culture war.
Yeah.
Because what we're doing is subconsciously we're setting each other up in camps.
Yeah.
And, America now is getting close to a physical civil war. We've got people killing each other now. This needs to be a war of ideas. It needs to be a war of emotion.
What it really needs to be is a conversation, Nick. And that's what you're saying, is you have to be sensible so that other people don't get put off. So you can actually have a conversation.
I don't think we're there yet for conversation.
No, we're not.
That's why I'm saying to people, we need to tackle them with positive emotion, because they're running on emotion.
Yeah.
They're not willing to listen to facts or have a conversation or to give you the benefit of doubt that used to are not racist. So if they can't give you I give everyone a benefit of doubt that they're not a racist, unless they prove me wrong. I give everyone a benefit of doubt that they're a decent person, unless they prove me wrong. And that's how we should treat everybody in society, but they're running on emotion. So I'm not sure how we do it yet, but having conversations and telling facts, we can do that. It's like house come home.
And would you change anything about your experience or what you went through?
The blog would have been wrote better. I didn't realize how much scrutiny it was going to get. So even though there's nothing in there that I regret writing, as you know, you can word things slightly differently. I could have made points slightly better. So I don't regret writing it. Nothing there I'm ashamed of either. But I could have wrote it a little bit more academically, a little bit more as if I was a English lit major or something. I could have made it a bit better, but I didn't because I'm just a kid off a council estate and I just had to spare half an hour, read a website and thought, oh, right, on this and did. So that could have been better. I'd have changed that. No, I'm not one for regrets.
Yeah.
I'm not one to, coulda, woulda, shoulda. No, done's done. I need to learn from what I did because you're a fool if you don't learn from things that go wrong in your life. So I need to learn from that. But I don't regret any of it. It's taken me to a place where I am now. It's given me a new challenge in life. So I'm still going to work for the charity, but I'm looking at going part-time because I want to start dedicating some of my time, do a lot more writing on social issues. I want to get involved in policy. I want to drive some of the agendas and be an influencer as opposed to helping a few thousand kids a year, which is great and amazing. But if I can influence policy and I can help bring down something like Black Lives Matter, the organisation, not the phrase, then I can have a bigger impact and do more good.
Well, let's talk about that because I think if we put a bow on your story, there's a happy ending.
Yep.
And that's a good thing. And congratulations to you on that and to all the people who supported you.
Yeah, big thanks to the people who supported me. Keystone Law, the I want to say Students' Union then, but the Free Speech Union were amazing. And everyone who messaged me really helped me get through this because I was at a really low place. And having reading weeks of being called an Nazi to then get messages saying, you're not, and look at the great things you've done, and look at this, and look at that, and look at this old article that I heard about 4 years ago where you saved a girl from being sexually abused. And, they sent me the article. I thought, I have done some good work. And, you start doubting yourself. So they really helped me.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the future then, because I think one of the most important conversations that we started sort of at the beginning was about what made you criticize the organization of BLM, which is you thought their prescriptions for what should happen in inner cities were fundamentally mistaken.
Yes.
They're fundamentally damaging to people who live in those communities, and particularly the vulnerable young people with whom you work.
Yeah.
So what are the things that people don't understand about inner city, young people, knife crime, gun crime, gangs, all of this sort of stuff that you would have experienced dealing with? What do people need to know? We have politicians who watch the show. We have journalists who watch the show. What do they need to understand that they do not understand at the moment?
That's $1 billion question, that one. I think we could do a 10 episode series on that. It's just really complicated. So some of the simple things. One is education. I just wrote an article for the Critic magazine on what I think we need to look at in our education system, because one size fits all doesn't work for everybody. So according to government stats, 82% of young people in England who attend school achieve the 5 GCSEs, which is the government minimum standard. That means 18% don't. It's the 18% who are being failed at school. And we need to look at how do we educate them. And I give a couple of examples of a girl I knew who was a lovely girl. Wasn't very bright, but was just a lovely person. And, could achieve in life because of her innate ability of making people go, I like her. And we've all met those people. And she left school with no qualifications, hardly attended any classes because she just wasn't academic. And if we had a different school around the corner, that wasn't a dumping ground for academically challenged kids or behavioural challenged kids. This isn't, a pupil referral unit. This is a school your parent chooses for you as opposed to you get sent. Because it's all about choice. I want parents and kids to have choice. But we could have other schools where young people who are not academically gifted, or might be, but just are sick of sitting in lessons, and they have a choice. They go to these schools where it's more practical. So they'll still do English, maths, things like that. But then, there could be classes where people could do coding if that's what they want to leave school and do. In this school, I give you an example where she could have been trained as a chambermaid. Was never going to do an academic job, but she could have understood, working, turning up on time, customer service, invoicing, simple hotel computer systems. She'd have left school And there's hundreds of hotels in my city centre. She did a job like that. But I bumped into her when she was 17, now morbidly obese, never had a job, and is now unemployable. And we've taken her spark away. She smiled all the time when I knew her. When I met her when she was 17 in the city centre, just walking past, we stopped at the chat, didn't smile once. Whatever was in her, our education system rips out of her. And that's only a small percentage of young people. But that doesn't mean we let them fail just because the vast majority are doing well at school. And those young people are also the young people then who then get dragged into crime, they get groomed, because they get kicked out of school because of the behaviour, or they stop attending school because, you imagine, you go to school for 11 years. Imagine going to school every day and you're not academically gifted, and every day you sit in a class and every day they make you feel more and more stupid. And you see other people getting it and you can't get it. And you start getting angry and you start thinking, I'm not coming anymore now. And you start getting disenfranchised. You start thinking society's against you. And you wonder why by the time you've left at 15, 16, you're an angry young man. You wonder why. We just tortured you for 11 years, made you feel stupid, inadequate, and nobody all those years. With the best intentions, they don't do it on purpose. I get that. And then you wonder why they're hanging on the streets, hanging out. And you wonder why drug dealers going, come here, mate. Want to win 10 quid? Do you want to do this, this, this? It's like, well, I'm finally being treated like an equal. They're not, but they think I'm being treated like an equal. I could be him. I could be the godfather. I could have this big house. And the odds are, no, you're going to get stabbed in a couple of years' time and end up in jail. But they buy into the dream because our education let them down. That's something we can do. The way we're kicking kids out of school into the arms of criminal gangs is tremendous in all the inner cities. And then we've got an issue with our culture. If you look at some of the biggest hits for TV shows over the last couple of years, Peaky Blinders, what's that? Organised crime. Breaking Bad, what's that? Organised crime, drug dealing. We're selling young people the dream of it's a career. Subconsciously, look at the music we listen to, rap music and stuff like that. All negative messages all the time. You know, gangs and drugs and killing and respect. And then we've also got some in the city, culture and family, about not appreciating and looking at the value of education. We've got lots of immigrant families who come in, big on education. You speak to, a British Chinese kid or Indian kid or Nigerian kid, their kids are going to do well at our state comprehensive in a poor area. They're the kids who excel. Their parents are saying, what have you done today? Look at your report card. Go get the belt. 2 Bs, go get the belt. And they're doing really well at school.
To be clear, we're not advocating for that.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean.
Yes.
They're strict on that and they value education. Yeah.
And I remember once, 20 years ago, sat in a...
You're not that compassionate if you've got the belt, mate. You got to stick to your label, compassionate Nazi.
We all need discipline.
Sure.
And I don't condone, but I know some families do that. I remember sitting in a house talking to a mum once about her daughter who was causing problems in the local chippy, bit of racial abuse in the local chippy. And I visited the house, sat down and said, this can't go on. These are the consequences for your daughter if this goes on. And I'm sat in this house, nicely decorated, the biggest TV I'd ever seen. This was like 15, 20 years ago. I didn't have a flat screen TV at the time. And she had this size of a wall, flat screen TV. Was on benefits. Didn't work. And I'm trying to say she needs to go to school. That's the problem. And she goes, well, I never went to school and I did okay. I'm looking at this nice house. All the rent's paid for. Everything's paid for. Nice big TV. I'm thinking, you have done okay.
She's got a point.
How am I telling this girl that if you don't go to school and get an education, you're going to be there? Where her mum's going, I did all right. So part of it's cultural as well.
Yeah.
So if we live in those cultures where, we don't value education or we don't value aspiration, or we're not saying to our kids, you can be a doctor, or I want you to be a doctor. Or we're saying, I want you to, work here or do this or do that. If we're just saying to young people, I don't care what you do, makes no difference to me, mate.
So how do you help kids?
It's really about giving them a dream. It's about building their aspiration. It's about making them believe in themselves. The thing I've heard the most and the thing that upsets me the most is when I say to young people, what do you want to be? What's your dream? And they go, nothing, I ain't got a dream. I prefer it when they say I want to be a football player. And, we know they're not, but at least I've got a dream. But when you've got young people saying, nothing, I ain't got a dream. And you dig down, you get to know them over weeks and you find out. And you realise they meant it. What happened to them was they had a dream, they tried stuff, and they either got no support, usually from home or parents or school, or they failed or stumbled and nobody helped them up and no one gave them the encouragement to start again. And eventually they learnt themselves that if I don't try, I don't fail.
But doesn't this go back to fatherlessness? That they've got nobody there to go,
yeah,
come on, pick yourself up. Look, we all fail.
And that's what fathers do. So when you come out, you run in the house crying, you've cut your knee. Yeah. Your dad goes, stop being a big baby. You're fine. Get back out there. Where your mum goes, go get the first aid. And your dad goes, your leg's not going to get out. That builds resilience in you. You go, oh, right. And dads come across as cruel sometimes, but they're not cruel. That's what dads do. That's why we need a mum and a dad. In less extraordinary circumstances. Yeah. And, when you come home and you're being bullied, your dad doesn't go, we're going to have to speak to school and we're going to have to get taxi to pick you up and we're going to have to do this and do that. Your dad goes, right, well, tomorrow, when the first one comes up to you, you smack him as hard as you can in the face and the others will either run away or you're going to get battered. But I'll tell you what, they won't mess with you the day after because they'll all know someone's getting a fist in the nose. Or your dad will walk with you to school and your dad will threaten them. And they all go, don't mess with him, his dad's mental. And we've all got different roles. And that's what we're missing out with fathers. We're missing these young people seeing their dad go out to work every day. In the wind, the snow, the hurricane, getting up at 6, 7 in the morning, not coming back till 6, 7 at night, knackered, sitting down. What's dad, you can play football? I can't play football every day, son. I'm absolutely shattered. I've been working. Oh, but dad, well, do you know why the lights are on? Because I pay the rent and I pay the bills. Do you know why you've just eaten? Because I give your mum money and she goes out and buys food for you. Where does that money come from? It's me working 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours a day. And young people go, right, someone's got to work for me to have stuff. And these are all the lessons we used to teach our children. And they weren't lessons as in we knew we were teaching them. They were just in heaven. But all that's gone. And especially young boys are just drifting. And they're looking for that father figure, that someone to look up to and someone to respect. And they're finding it in negative male role models outside the house.
Do you know, I listen to you and you're so right. And I listen to you with the Twitter brain on and I'm going, we're going to get cancelled so fucking hard for this because these things have become unsayable.
Okay. I was a teacher in East London, a very deprived part of East London in Newham. And I looked at the boys who were struggling in my class and I'd be like, no dad, no dad, no dad, no dad. Yes. The vast majority of them. And it's not their fault, those kids. It's because, as you said, they've been failed by their fathers. And people don't want to say this, but if you have a kid, that is your responsibility.
Your responsibility? We can't say it enough.
Yeah.
It's your responsibility. And men who abandon their children should be publicly shamed. You should be ashamed of sitting in the pub and saying, oh yeah, I've got 2 kids. Oh yeah, I've not seen them in years. That should be like saying, well, yeah, I did 4 years in jail for paedophilia. It should be almost the same as that because you're damaging your own children. You might not see it and it goes a long time and it's emotional, but you're damaging your own flesh and blood. And if you don't want to have your own flesh and blood, they're called condoms. So we've got a choice. And that's not to say that every young person who doesn't have a father in his home is destined to be a criminal. That's not the case because I don't have a father in my home. So it's not to say, you know, that happened, but when you look at the overall stats and who's failing in the years I've spent working with young people, it's like, oh yeah, again, and we see it. And there's a wonderful book by it's called The Boy Crisis by, I think it's Warren Favell. Have you read it?
Yes.
You need to, if you've not read it, you need to read it. It's a wonderful book, and it talks about all of this.
Before we go, just one question I want to ask Nick. What advice would you give to someone who's going through an experience similar to yours? What should they do? What should they not do?
First thing is join the Free Speech Union, because they're great and they can help you. Don't ever apologise for something you're not sorry for, because I wouldn't do it. So if you've done something and you know it's wrong, then you need to apologise. It's called being a decent human being. But if you've done nothing wrong, don't apologise. And then, depending on your situation, you need to work out how you can fight back, and try to use some of the tactics that they've used against you for you, such as social media, such as online petitions. Seek out people like me and other people who have got a presence online, and let's get a petition started for you. It might not work, but make you feel better when 18,000 people have signed it. And don't do what I did the first week, which was accept defeat. I think the biggest mistake they made with me was they gave me nothing else to lose. And when you put someone in the corner who's got nothing else to lose, you either die or you fight your way out of that corner. And if they've done the same to you, then that's your choice. Either die in that corner or fight your way out, because you've got nothing else to lose.
One of our favorite quotes on this show is the Fight Club quote. I don't know if you've seen that movie, which is,
yes.
It's only once you've lost everything that you're free to do anything. And thank you for coming on the show, Nick. Thank you for taking the stand. I'm glad you landed on your feet. And it sounds to me like there's some really great things ahead in the future for you, and as a result for young people in this country, because I really think you can make a huge contribution to improving their lives. And I hope people who watch this and people who listen to this, who have the ability to change things, take what you've said on board. With that in mind, as always, we've got one more question for you.
Which is, what's the one thing we're not talking about as a society, but we really should be?
We're talking about a little bit, but not anything like we should. And it's the knife crime epidemic that we've got. How have we got hundreds of young people stabbing each other to death every year? And it seems as if we are lost for an answer. It baffles me. Part of it is we don't understand. People who are tackling it obviously understand it, but the vast majority of people don't understand it. You know, people think it's really drug turf wars, and it tends not to be about drug turf war. It tends to be about respect. It tends to be about, have you seen what he put on Twitter about you, about your mum? Are you going to have that? I wouldn't have it. If he said that to me about my mum, I'd knife him. And all of a sudden, that young person then feels like there's nothing else I can do now. All my friends are saying, I wouldn't have that. And then they're backed into a corner, and then we have violence. And we're not looking at it seriously enough, and we're not tackling it enough because of the racial element we have. And everyone, again, is paranoid about looking at it because it's predominantly young black men stabbing other young black men. And I had a thought the other day, which I've not really looked into, and it just popped in my head. 150 years ago in the UK, we had a problem of dueling, and that was all with respect. So we'd have, sir, you said, what about my wife? I will see you tomorrow at dawn. And we had people stabbing and shooting each other to death over respect. We need to look at why that happened and how we tackled it. In other countries, how have we tackled young men taking offence, which is easily done in every culture throughout history, and resorting to violence, which is what young men do. So this isn't a new problem. But I can't see anywhere where we're looking at it and coming up with solutions. We just seem to be, all we seem to do is an outcry. How can this happen? And I think it's a shame.
Well, Nick, thank you so much for coming on the show. If people want to find you on Twitter.
Twitter, Facebook, all those places. Nick Buckley, MBE.
Perfect stuff. Thank you so much for watching the show, guys. We hope you enjoy it.
Did you enjoy that video? I think you did. Come on now, hit that bell, subscribe, comment. Let's build this channel. I need more followers. I need more subscribers. Be part of the journey. See you soon.